So we are celebrating the end of a rigorous MBA application cycle with some awesome results. So I was accepted to the Berkeley Haas School of Business, specifically the MBA and Masters of Public Health dual degree program with a full consortium scholarship.
You're watching the Art of Applying's Client Case Study Series, where we sit down with our clients who have just been accepted into their dream graduate schools. We talk about their stats, acceptances, scholarships, and their advice and encouragement for other applicants just like you. If you're interested in getting my team's expert editing, guidance, and advice on your admissions journey, book a free 15-minute quick call with our team at the link in the description. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more success stories, application tips, advice, and encouragement. Now, back to the video. Hello, everyone. Kanisha Grayson, founder and CEO of The Art of Applying here. We help people get into the world's best grad schools around the world and the money to pay for it. Today, we are speaking with our rock star, superstar, amazing client who we will be calling Bea to protect their identity. And nothing about Bea's results surprised me because I was telling them from the very beginning, I thought that they'd have great results, but it is still my honor and my pleasure to share their story today and their advice, encouragement, inspiration, and insight with all of you who are out there applying, thinking about grad school, in the midst of it, and just wondering what to do. Is it morning? It's still morning. Good morning, Bea.
Good morning, Kanisha. Nice to be here. Nice to talk to you.
Yes, nice to talk to you. Before the call, we were talking about how both of our plant backgrounds are popping. So just wanted to acknowledge your beautiful background. All right. So as you know, Bea, we start everything at the Art of Applying with celebrations. And I would love to hear what your celebrations are. Please share with us your results so far, schools accepted, and scholarships received.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So we are celebrating the end of a rigorous MBA application cycle with some awesome results. So I was accepted to the Berkeley Haas School of Business, specifically the MBA and Masters of Public Health dual degree program with a full consortium scholarship.
Fantastic. I don't know that there is a better school as far as the school's values, location, that I would have chosen for you. Not that I get to choose, but what a great match. Are you comfortable sharing your other results?
Sure. Yeah, I applied to 10 schools and 11 different programs. So the 11 comes from Berkeley being the same school, but the School of Public Health and the School of Business were two different applications. But I also got waitlisted at Michigan Ross and waitlisted at Cornell.
Okay, wonderful. And then did you get into all the other schools then?
No, I didn't get great news from the other schools.
Okay, understood. So that's so interesting that your results were so extreme.
Yeah.
I can imagine that took a lot of self-management around your feelings. So we'll talk more about that. So Bea, tell us whatever you feel comfortable sharing about your applicant profile. That would be things like cultural background, age, where you went to school, what you studied, GPA, test score, spill the deets, whatever deets you feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll share as many deets as possible because I think this is important. So I'll start with demographics. So I identify as Filipino-American. I'm a child of immigrants. I grew up in the Hollis and Jamaica Queens area in New York City. I was 29 years old when I applied. I'll be 29 when I matriculate. I had an undergraduate degree in biological sciences at a liberal arts college in New York City, specifically in Brooklyn. I had a 3.3 GPA. What else? I took the GRE. And I was on the lower end of the GRE score. So very happy to have the results that I do have with those statistics. And I also identify as non-binary, and I was out in my application process as a non-binary LGBTQ person.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm going to press a little bit, Bea, but you just let me know if you don't want to. Do you feel comfortable sharing your GRE score?
Sure. Yeah, because I was also Googling and searching for numbers of other applicants. I got a 310 on the GRE. That was my highest score. I took it 3 times, and that 310 was split between a 157 verbal and 153 quant.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. And thank you for sharing all of that information. And I think it's really important for people to know. I love that you also shared even the exact place in New York where you grew up, because neighborhood by neighborhood, opportunities, income, demographics drastically shift. So thank you for sharing that. So Bea, let's rewind back to the beginning of your application process. What was the application process like for you before we started working together? What was difficult? What wasn't working?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think I remember talking about this during my breakthrough call, or one of the first calls that I had with you. It was a lot of research and going into a rabbit hole. So I spent countless hours on Google, on Reddit, on different forums, just trying to get answers to questions that I couldn't get quickly enough.
Yes.
Or, whatever I encountered online was just like vague responses that didn't necessarily were like applicable in my situation. So it was just like a lot of headaches. I feel like running around in circles looking for answers. So when I found the art of applying, I was super happy because, my specific question, I could just throw it out to you or to my consultant and it would get answered, and the answer that I would get tailored to me. So I was doing a lot of research on MBA programs in general, and I was constantly asking myself this question on like, what kind of stats do I need? Am I the type of applicant that these schools will even consider? Is this a long shot? So it was a lot of those big questions that are non-answerable by anybody that were floating around. And I think it kept me in this loop of just overthinking and not necessarily working on the application itself. So there was a lot of that before I got to work with the art of applying.
Okay, that makes sense to me. So then how did you find the art of applying? And when you found us, what inspired you to reach out?
I found the art of applying because I was actually looking for LGBTQ fellowships and scholarships. And Ramba was one of them. So Reaching Out MBA is a fellowship program, an organization that supports LGBTQ MBA applicants. And I found your YouTube video with a Ramba representative. So I clicked on it, and I felt myself resonating a lot with what you said. So I was looking for information on Aramba. I was like, who is this Kanisha person? Like, I want to see what she does. So then I did a little bit of research on you. I watched a bunch of the client testimonials that were uploaded on your YouTube page at the time. And I think being someone who doesn't come from a business background and doesn't necessarily have the network of folks who have gone through this process before, it was always in the back of my mind that like maybe I'll need help at some point. So I was sort of like kind of already ready to ask somebody for help, and that like finding that video with you on YouTube just sort of came at the perfect time. And I already was like a half yes when I saw you speaking, and then I reached out after that.
Oh, wonderful. So then you scheduled a quick call, then the 15-minute quick call, then the breakthrough call with our team. What did you think the breakthrough call would be like? And then what was it actually like for you?
I had watched a lot of videos on your YouTube already. So I generally had a sense that it would be about getting to know me as a person and how I am as a holistic applicant. I saw how you spoke to other clients already. So I knew it wasn't just going to be about my stats. It was going to be a lot. It was going to have to do a lot with my story, who I was, like my goals, sort of distance traveled from where I was before to where I am now at the point of applying. So I was definitely expecting those sorts of questions, but during the breakthrough call, it got even more in depth. It got really specific into those stories and to my reasons for applying. And you also gave me some like free advice on like how to pivot. Like I was studying for the GMAT at the time, and I think it was during the breakthrough call or maybe one of the calls prior, where you were like, you should switch to the GRE. Like if it's not working, just do it now. And that was before I even signed with the art of applying. And I implemented that advice right away and just like switched. And it ended up working out. So yeah, it was an awesome call. Like I enjoyed the conversation and I really enjoyed how holistic it was. It wasn't just focused on stats. It was focused on like, why do I want this? And what's like the long-term plan that I could be working on to really get me there.
Absolutely. And that's what great level of memory you have of the call, and makes me really pleased that you had such a great experience. One thing I always tell our other breakthrough coaches is don't give free advice on the calls. And I think the reason why that happened on your calls, I cannot stand watching a high potential applicant draining their energy, their time, and their money, struggling with the test when I know they have this amazing story that I'm like, just get the test out of the way so we can work on fleshing out that beautiful story that I've already gotten the pleasure of hearing a little bit of on the breakthrough call. I'm really happy that you were so receptive to that coaching. And for anyone watching this video, I will just flat out say, if you are really struggling with the GMAT, my blanket advice, and you are applying to business school, my blanket advice is just completely abandon the GMAT and move over to the GRE. I could give you a whole bunch of reasons on why. I probably gave Bea reasons why, but if you can just trust me, it's not that the test is easier. It's just often a better fit because it's just a different test for people who are struggling with the GMAT. But I digress. So, Bea, was it scary to make the leap to decide to work with us? I know that you'd watched a lot of videos. You had a really good feel for my personality, my approach, but you're not working directly for many, many months one-on-one, right, with Kanisha. So did you have any fears, doubts, or concerns about working with us? If you did, what were they? Tell us.
I think my biggest fear was definitely around cost. But at the same time, like I mentioned before, I was already like a half yes. Like I had been thinking about applying. I had been studying for the GMAT for a while already, maybe about 6 months at the time. And so I was just making little like micro decisions and like putting money away in case I did need to ask someone for help. And so I was already ready to say yes to somebody. I think it just took the right person and like the right like company to say yes to. So I like for me personally, I think it wasn't that scary. I think making that big commitment, like, oh, I'm really doing this. Like I'm putting some skin in the game and I'm like, really, this is for real now. There is no backing out because I'm telling people like I'm signing a contract and making that commitment. That was the scary part. And I also think so. For folks who are listening, I was applying at the time in 2020, at the time of the COVID-19 pandemic. And there was like a lot of uncertainty in terms of like what my results could be. I also work in healthcare, so I had like limited time. So I think my concerns were more around what was happening in general, but I knew I needed help. And I'm glad that I eventually said yes to that.
Oh, wonderful. I am too. So you commit to the program, you enroll, and you really showed up, Bea, in the program. You did the work. And I really noticed throughout the program, okay, this person is doing the work. I have no worries, no concerns about this person getting their result. What was your favorite part about working with the Art of Applying, about being in the Application Accelerator?
Oh, I have two, but I'll start with one. I think getting to know the other clients and being able to watch other people go through the same or a similar process if they were applying to graduate programs that were like in law or like policy or other industries. Like I said, I didn't have a network. I didn't really have people or peers to talk to about how things were going, or even like venting frustrations or seeing how other people have done it before. And we were also in quarantine, so I couldn't like really reach out to strangers or cold email people the way I wanted to. So I knew I needed like a home base of people who were doing the same thing, just to sort of vibe off of that energy and hold me accountable. And I know for me, the way I do that is if I'm in a group setting of people who are doing something similar and going after the same goals. If I hadn't signed with the Art of Applying and I was just doing this on my own, I probably would have burned out really quickly. So I knew I needed the group of people, and I knew I needed like a cheerleader who was my consultant to like tell me to keep going. So I would say the people and seeing other clients was the best part. The second best part was you have a system in place. So even though there's a lot of uncertainty in the application process, like the system that you built is certain. Like there's a start to finish, like do all of these things and you're gonna like see a result. And like, even though I had the GPA that I did, even though I'm sort of like on the older end of like the applicant age range, even though I was struggling with the standardized test, I was just like, trust the system,
Yes.
like just do these things. And then like, I'm just gonna like do all these things. I'm gonna trust it. And if I do it, I'm gonna like just pray and trust that I'm gonna get a good result at the end of it. So that was really helpful to know that there was a plan that I could follow. And as long as I stuck to it, I could expect positive news at the end of it.
Yes, and that's exactly how it worked. And I love that you were willing to trust and just take one step at a time, take the actions, even though you may take 20 actions to not get a result for 8 months later, right? But it's just like, you've watched all those videos. If it worked for that person, it might work for me. If it worked for that person, it could work for me. And at that point, it's just like, I'm just like them. And I'll be making that video one day too, sharing my story. And here we are.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That makes me so happy. So Bea, if you could change anything or something about your application process, what would you change?
I think I don't know if this is possible, but I would worry a little bit less about the test. I would still put in the same amount of effort that I did, but I would be kinder to myself because I was a healthcare worker in the middle of the pandemic. I had limited time. It was tough to learn how to take a test and then learn the content for the test and then actually take the test. Yes. And like doing that multiple times was tough. I think I would have been kinder to myself in the process of like, this is really the best that I can do right now, given the situation. So for anybody who is experiencing the same thing, if you're giving your all into like a part of the application process, like just accept that and know that that is awesome for you to be doing. So I would do that. I would also take the energy and time I spent like overthinking like an essay, like trying to make it, like trying to perfect it, and spend it more time like networking with current students at all of the schools that I applied to. I think one of the things that I was grateful for is like I did a lot of self-reflection before I even opened up an application about like why I wanted to do this. And I think that really helped whenever I could get FaceTime with a current student, because culture fit, whatever that means for you, I think was super important for me and is probably really important to anyone who's going through the application cycle. It's like I knew I was going to be potentially in a different state with a group of people for 2 years, maybe more. And I was like, I need to feel comfortable like wherever I am. And I want to grow with people with like similar ideologies and similar values. So when you do that self-reflection and you really spend time talking to current students, I think you really get a feel for where you could potentially end up being once you do get admitted to school. So those are the couple of things that I would change. I would be kinder to myself during the parts of the application that I struggled with. And I would also prioritize a little bit more speaking with current students to really get a feel for all the programs that I was applying to.
Great. Super helpful. And so you mentioned, Bea, that you would be kinder to yourself around test taking. You also mentioned that it sounds like you were studying for the test, I think 6 months before we actually even started working together. What would you say to someone who is watching this video and they're like, okay, this program sounds great, but I want to make sure I get a really strong test score before I reach out to the Art of Applying or before we start working together? Yeah,
I would say imperfect action is better than no action at all. So I think, take a diagnostic test, see where you are, and like really target into the areas of the exam where you feel like you could really brush up on. But also, I think it's helpful if you have some months before actually submitting your application to like have it in your head, I can take this more than once.
Yes.
So I think like once you take your diagnostic and then once you take the official exam for real, you sort of get into this vibe where you know what to expect. But then you also know like what didn't work for you? Like, did your space work? Did the stuff that you studied, was actually on the exam? Like, did you use, like, what materials did you use and what do you feel comfortable with? Like, I think having that first go at the test is really helpful for dispelling a lot of the assumptions that someone might have. Certainly did for me. It dispelled my assumptions about what the test was actually like. So I would just go for it at least once and not like treat it like it's the end of the world. If you take like the test once, if you tell yourself I could take this another, like a second time or a third time, it really helps just like take off the pressure, because you know this isn't like your one and final shot to like get the score that you want because you want to get into your dream program. So that's something that really helped for me. Like, after you gave me like the 3 dates that I should try to take the test, it helped like for me see, okay, this is not the end all be all the first time that I take it. I have other chances to improve if I wanted.
Got it. And so in your comment, though, Bea, it sounds like you started working with the art of applying before you'd even taken the test officially for the first time. So that's a little bit what I'm trying to lead you to talk about, is like the person who's like, oh, no, but I'm going to study on my own. I'm going to take the test once or twice on my own, and then I'll sign up with the art of applying. So what helped you feel confident about signing up to work with us, even though you were still working on studying for the test and hadn't even taken your first test yet?
I think it's because I had so many unanswered questions about the rest of the application process. So I had like a vague sense of things that I needed to accomplish to make for a successful application. But I also know that I had a set amount of time and I didn't want to spend it all just studying for the test.
Yes.
I wanted like a deeper understanding of how much time it would take to like write an essay. Like if I have multiple schools, like how long would it take to complete the entire application? So I think like that's why, is like I knew the art of applying, and seeing other folks who are currently in the process go through it would give me like more of a forward looking idea of what I can expect down the line, closer to the point when I actually need to submit. And I think I just had vague ideas of what that meant, but like signing the contract and then like joining the group actually helped me see, like, all right, this is the full picture of what I actually need to do to complete a whole application.
Yes, absolutely. And what have you learned about yourself, or how have you grown as a result of going through this application process with us by your side?
Yeah, this whole application process definitely tested my resilience. There were lots of things going on, but I learned, one, like I am definitely a person who needs to be immersed in a collaborative and supportive community, which for the MBA application process, the art of applying was. I also learned that I can do hard things during hard times. And that is something I think I needed to be reminded of. I think life has a way of like throwing us curveballs every few years. And like this past year was one for me. And I think a third thing is I learned that I belong in more spaces than I let myself believe. For like the business school realm, I was constantly asking myself questions like, do I belong here? I don't see anybody like me. Like I have this story, but like I can't find anybody else with a similar story. So I was telling myself no before I even gave myself a chance for someone to like say yes. So I think that's like one of the big things that I also learned is like I should count myself out less and like say yes to myself more. And that's something that just like permeates into the culture of the art of applying. So having that like constant reinforcement and like the Kanisha voice in my head, like I think was super helpful. And I was thankful to have learned that about myself during the whole application cycle.
Oh, that is so beautifully said. And that extra, let me see how to say it. That increased confidence and self-assurance will serve you so well in graduate school. You're going in, like, let's say you are already here because of your accomplishments that the way you'd proven yourself so far. But I feel like we helped you get to here, and the gap wasn't because I've done things, but just because I am. I just really because I am.
Right.
Worthy, intelligent, belonging. Oh, that means a lot to me. So, Bea, what's next for you in your application process and your grad school journey?
Next for me is making the big move to the West Coast since I'm attending Berkeley. So I'm located on the East Coast right now. So I have a huge move to plan for. But I've already committed to Berkeley. I know I'm going. So right now, next steps is just making the move.
Okay, wonderful. And then also, I can imagine you might be preparing for the Consortium orientation program. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that is and what that looks like?
Sure. So any candidate who is accepted as a consortium fellow or a consortium member attends OP, which is Consortium's orientation program. It's basically 4 days of networking with other fellows and members, meeting different companies that recruit students during Consortium OP. So the positive of that is, as a consortium fellow or consortium member, you get a little bit of a head start with recruiting.
Big head start.
A big head start. So while if you decide that you want to go to OP to recruit, you can do that over the summer, and that takes a little bit of a pressure or a lot of pressure off during your fall semester, and then you can guarantee or solidify an internship for the first summer of your first year. So that's super exciting. I'm attending weekly prep sessions for the consortium through Berkeley Haas. So we're getting geared up and prepped and trained on behavioral interviews for folks who want to go into consulting. There are like case study preps that we can attend if we wanted, but it's also like a good time to explore different organizations and companies. And even if you decide that you don't want to go into OP for recruiting, you just want to talk to different companies and get some face time with them, it helps to formulate an idea in your head about what the actual recruiting process or the general recruiting process would be like during the semester. So it's good to get that little bit of a heads up into the different companies and what roles they might be hiring for.
Oh, what a wonderful description. I learned something. So sharing that. All right. So Bea, now that you've achieved these phenomenal results, what's going to change, improve, or open up in your life and career?
Yeah, I don't think I can even completely comprehend the doors that this will open yet. I even just being admitted to Berkeley, it felt like impossible a year and a half ago and 2 years ago. So I don't think I fully internalized what this could possibly mean, but I know that the reason for why I'm in healthcare and the reason for why I want to do this work, it's a big vision that I'm hoping is going to impact a lot of people's lives. And I know that the MBA and an MBA from Berkeley is an awesome vehicle to be able to achieve that. I just needed a runway to accomplish a dream. And this is a part of that runway. So I know that it's going to open a lot of doors. I have yet to fully internalize what that actually means, but I know it's going to be big. I
love that. I know it's going to be big, and it is. So, Bea, when you first signed up to work with The Art of Applying, we asked you who the first 4 people you would tell when you got into your schools. Tell us about who were some of the first people you told about getting into your schools and how they reacted and how you celebrated.
Oh, I told my partner first. So you might appreciate this story, but the day that I got my acceptance letter, I was I was really stressed out that day. And I decided I need to calm down. So I started journaling on the floor of my room underneath my plants so I could get the vibes on.
Oh, that sounds really serene.
Yeah. So just to calm my head. And I had received a lot of rejections before I heard from Berkeley. So like one school after another, just rejection letter, or like no interview invite, or getting interviewed and then getting rejected.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like really in this place of like, oh, is this something that I will have to do again? I'm already feeling so burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided that like I needed to just calm down and relax. So I was like journaling on the floor. And then I remember like one of the last lines that I journaled was like, whatever is meant for me is meant for me. And then I just felt like so at peace after that moment. And I was sitting on the floor and I decided to just like refresh my email. And then like right after I finished journaling, I refreshed my email and I just got an email from the consortium that said decision letter. I'm like, what is this? So then I opened it up and then it like it told me that I got a full consortium scholarship to Berkeley. So it was just like one of those moments where I just like let everything go and just like firmed up my belief on like reminding myself, like, why am I doing this? Like, it's for these reasons. Like the MBA is great, the school is great, but like I have a bigger hope and dream for what I can, potentially support and impact in this world. And I just like let it all of it go. And then it happened. Like I got my acceptance letter. So the reason I tell this story is because the first person I told was my partner, who found me on the floor, like in shock. Like I was in shock. Oh yeah, that was like those were her first words. Like, are you okay? So I was on the floor. It's like, I got a full like scholarship to Berkeley, and she was just like so ecstatic. She was like, show me the letter, and we were like on the floor together reading this letter. So she was the first person I told. And she was super excited. She's still super happy. And then the next folks that I told were my parents, who they're like super excited and happy and proud. But I will say that I'm a child of immigrants and they've been on the East Coast their whole life. They didn't know where Berkeley was. So, but they knew it was like a good thing. So they're super happy for me and they're like excited to like visit the Bay Area potentially. Yes. And to hear about what I'm doing. So yeah, I had a good crew behind me and they're all super excited.
Oh, that's wonderful. That this whole interview is just lighting me up. All right. Well, this has been fantastic. Bea, is there anything else you want to share? Maybe anything you might want to share with people who maybe share some of your personal background qualities. So maybe someone who is Filipino-American, somebody who's a child of immigrants, maybe somebody who identifies as LGBTQ and or non-binary, just somebody who's like, I'm looking at all these websites and I don't see anyone that looks like me, whether numbers wise or demographically, and just, is this for me?
Yeah, I've reflected on that question a lot. It was a big question because I had all of these intersecting identities. And I think right now, the current state of business schools is you're not going to find a lot of intersecting identities. But something that I would say is if you're someone who identifies with like a certain ethnicity, like a certain gender, or come from like a background, or even if you have like a lower GRE score or GMAT score, if you're like the first of your identity to, if you're someone with identities that you don't necessarily see represented in these top business schools, I would say don't be afraid to be the one who goes first, because somebody needs to go first. And that's something I told myself when I couldn't find Filipinx, non-binary, LGBTQ, like people from Jamaica, Queens. I was just like, oh, they're like, I don't know if this is for me because I don't see people with like the million things that I identify with. But I told myself, like, even if I don't, so what? Like, I've been first to like come out in my family. I've been first to do a lot of things. Why not be like one of the first people with these identities to go into business school? Like, someone can reach out to me when I'm a student, like if they can find me. So I would say that if there are things about yourself and your identity that you're using as a reason to count yourself out of this process, I would say don't be afraid to go first, because a lot of people like need to do that. These schools need us. These schools need our stories as much as we need them to accomplish what we want to accomplish. So I would just say that it's just like you don't have to be invited. You can just like show all the great things about yourself, and then like the right school will see that, and then you'll end up in a place that is meant for you. And I think that's what happened for me in this application cycle. Is just something that I needed to remind myself to trust the whole time that I was applying. But I think as long as like you do that, and I did that, it works out, because then you're doing everything for the right reasons, and you're giving it your all.
Beautifully said. My heart is soaring. You have made my day.
Awesome.
This is my first meeting of the day. You just share such thoughtful responses that I think are really going to touch people, inspire people, and encourage all kinds of people. Congratulations, Bea. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being an awesome client. And we'll chat for a bit after this interview, just catch up a little bit more. And just know that for years to come, this interview is going to be touching people's lives and helping change people's lives.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kanisha. I really appreciate all of your support and all the support from everyone at the Art of Applying, and to everybody who's applying. Good luck. You got this.
Yes. Thanks for watching. Are you ready to take your application process to the next level? The Art of Applying helps you get into the graduate school of your dreams and get money to pay for it. Book a free quick call from the link in the description to get started. And subscribe to our channel for more application tips and success stories.